Yeah, I think even if you look at my career, myself growing up, I had to grow up playing with boys the entire time. And it's been a blessing for me because I've gotten the opportunity to be at a certain level, but there was no girls program for me to come through that was at any standard to help me improve. And we see young girls coming in now and playing for West Indies and almost having to learn at the West Indies level and learn on the job because there's just no real program for them to be able to come through. And we expect girls to come to the West Indies team and be ready, but it's like, how?
That was Hayley Matthews passionately talking about the state of women's cricketing affairs in the Caribbean. Now, why did we show you that clip of Hayley Matthews? Before we get into that, let's quickly dive deep into what to expect on Fanco this week, shall we? Now, for all you cricket fans that have an appetite for cricket, if you're an early riser, you're an insomniac, not getting that sleep, you want to watch cricket as soon as you're up, listen. Men's and women's Super Smash, that's going to have you covered. It starts as early as 3:10 in the morning from New Zealand. How about that? You later get to work, you have some time at lunchtime at work. The Bangladesh Premier League will be on, that's going to have you covered. What if you still have an appetite for cricket? You come back home and in the evening, you wouldn't mind some fast-paced T20 action? The IL T20 from UAE. 8 p.m. start on weekdays, and on the weekends, we've got you covered. Double header starting at 3:30 in the afternoon. When it comes to cricket, we must also mention that there is a historic ODI series between Bangladesh and the West Indies that starts later tonight. A 3-match ODI series and the series decider on Friday. Now, is that enough cricket for you? Speaking about the West Indies and Bangladesh and women's cricket, can you believe that these two teams have only once before met in ODI match? That was back in the 2022 Women's World Cup, where the Windies broke plenty of Bangladeshi hearts. They defended 140 runs, went on to winning that game by 4 runs. And that was the only previous encounter in an ODI game.
Pakistan on the other. No, she's bowled finally. Last delivery, 2 to get. Oh, beaten. Oh, she's run out. Edge, and that's gone for 4.
And speaking about World Cups, do you remember the last time the Windies Women's Team were on the top of the cricketing world? That was when an 18-year-old Hayley Matthews played a massive role in helping the Windies win the 2016 T20 World Cup. What's happened after that? Has it been the same for the Windies Women's Team? We've had as many as 6 global events since the 2016 T20 World Cup, and the Windies have only made it to the semi-finals thrice. They've never made it to a final. And here's why you should be knowing the Windies women's story. A major hurdle for the women is most certainly lack of infrastructure that a lot of the other countries have access to. Is there a center for excellence that the players can hone their skills in during the off-season? Unfortunately, the answer is no. These girls come from a bunch of different islands that make up the Caribbean islands, and so the only real time they get together is ahead of an international tour, and that's why the issue compounds. The newcomers have barely any time to get used to international cricket, and so in so many ways they're actually learning on the job. And because this West Indies team is in transition, consistency is a problem. But one thing you do know with the Windies, it's a team that is full of spirit and fire. They may have plenty of problems, lack of infrastructure, lack of a solid system, if I may say, but it's a team that have been punching above their weight. Take Ali Fletcher, for example. At 34, she was certainly an inspiration for plenty of mothers out there. She made a comeback to international cricket. This was just 18 months after becoming a mother, and unfortunately missed out in the semi-finals because of COVID. And even 3 years later, when she was 37 years of age, Ali Fletcher played a massive role in helping the Windies make it to the semi-final of the 2024 T20 World Cup. Well, on one side of the spectrum, you have an Ali Fletcher at 36. You have a Zayda James on the other side of the spectrum, who recently broke into the national squad through the under-19 system. Zayda James was only 12 years old when the West Indies won the 2016 T20 World Cup. She was watching that on TV, and here she is a few years later in the national squad. And even take the captain, for example. Hayley Matthews, at the age of 26 now, already has 10 years of international experience. It talks about how early they start, the Windies. And what did the Windies do in the 2024 T20 World Cup in October? They certainly overcame plenty of odds, and on their way to the semis of the tournament, they eliminated the English, a team that obviously can fall back on far better resources and infrastructure. And the only real threat that the Windies did have was Bangladesh. But unfortunately, the West Indies did fall 8 runs short in the semi-finals to eventual champions New Zealand, but they certainly once again punched above their weight. With the little that they have, they make plenty happen. And fast forward to December, where the Windies went down in an ODI series, away series against Team India. They now find themselves in a familiar ground where they unfortunately have to participate once again in the qualifiers to make it to the 2025 ODI World Cup later this year. But their opponents, Bangladesh, are still in with a shout. An ODI series win against the Windies could see them overtake New Zealand and qualify directly. So what does that give us? On one side, the Windies, who play this game with absolute passion and a Caribbean flair that nobody else gives us, versus another team that have the possibility of a direct entry into the World Cup. West Indies versus Bangladesh. It's going to be a cracker of a series, and you know where to find the action. And as we head out, here's a quick look back at some top moments from the week past on Fan Code. We've all seen a one-handed catch, but have you seen a one-handed shot for 4?
It is one-handed, and he's just got enough on it, Laurie Evans.
A fourth umpire intervention to prevent a super sub walking into bat.
Only the head coach can notify the fourth umpire immediately at the fall of a wicket or a batter retiring. As we saw there, our fourth umpire was not informed of the super sub.
Without watching the clip fully, can you guess why the batter wasn't out here?
The base of the gloves, they're not wholly behind the stumps, so I called it breaking the plane, which is in effect the same thing, but they need to be wholly behind the stumps in that instance, and that's why it's a no ball.
Beautiful Yorker. What a delivery that is. And he's done it again. Oh my goodness me.
There were no doubts here as Farooqi turned the game on its head like only he can with his Yorkers. The last one is a record, the highest ever team score in BPL, powered by Tanzit Hazan and Liton Das. The partnership between the two, 241 runs. This is the second highest partnership ever in T20 history.